Hi, my name is Noah Stork, and today I want to talk a little bit about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Now, fair warning, there is going to be a heavy amount of spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen the movie, I really suggest clicking away. Alright, let's get into it. To start off, I understand why this atrocity of a movie was made, but that doesn't make it alright. Now, my biggest problem with The Last Jedi is the Disneyfication of the Star Wars franchise. All the cheesy gags, the cute animals, and the meaningless plot lines boil down to Disney wanting to churn out as much cash as possible. As a free market enthusiast, I commend the executives at Disney for how much money this movie is going to rake in, but as a Star Wars fan, they have undoubtedly killed the series as we knew it. The Last Jedi symbolizes letting go of the past and embracing the future, not just in a movie sense, but in a much more meta sense in the real world as well. In the movie, this generational handoff is portrayed as the older original characters, such as Luke, Leia, and Snoke, passing the torch to the newer and younger characters like Rey, Finn, and Poe. These new and younger characters are now the driving force of the series. But this generational handoff plays a much larger role in real life as well. The original trilogy came out more than 40 years ago. The original fans have grown up, had their own kids, and those kids have grown up loving Star Wars as well. The franchise as a whole is transitioning to better suit its new and ever-growing fan base, as well as the modern times we live in today. Star Wars will always be beloved by its original baby boomer fan base. But change and growth is inevitable, and I do understand why Disney has decided to take the series in the direction that they did. Let me describe how disgustingly awful The Last Jedi was, and how big of a disgrace it is to the Star Wars that we know and love. I'll begin with the cringe-inducing gags that never seemed to end. Their jokes are too cheesy, and they never stop. The Last Jedi is oversaturated with cheap humor that makes it almost unwatchable. These jokes go into sort of meta sense as well, self-referencing previous happenings in the Star Wars universe. That should have been left in The Force Awakens. Get them all out in the first movie and then continue on with the story. Both of the gags and the referencing humor could have been perfect if only it had been used 90% less. But this goes back to the ever-changing fan base. I saw Star Wars: The Last Jedi in a theater, and these jokes absolutely killed. They are perfect for marketing the movie and the franchise as a whole to a bigger and growing audience. Disney doesn't care as much about the so-called Star Wars purists as it does about marketing the film to the biggest audience possible. If shitty jokes were the only thing that The Last Jedi did wrong, I would have an entirely different opinion. But the sad thing is, there's so much more. Many individual plot lines and moments in the film made absolutely zero sense. The entire Finn and Rose plotline of going to the casino world Canto Bright served no purpose whatsoever other than to eat up time and bog down the middle of the film. Yes, it did spark hope in the young slave children and probably the future resistance fighters, but it was unnecessarily wrong and completely distracted from the much more pressing storylines of Rey and Poe. Perhaps my biggest issue with the plot is the timeline. Obviously, all of the storylines are centered around the main plot of the last Rebel cruiser running low on fuel. But the problem is, if these fuel reserves were so low that they seemingly had hours left, how did Rey's Jedi training with Luke take seemingly months? Snoke's death was incredibly underwhelming for someone that was made out to be this huge, all-powerful leader. Why not just let Leia die when the bridge was hit and she was sucked out into space? Just write in that she dropped the tracker and write Carrie Fisher out of the series. This would have been a perfect way to let her go, but instead we saw an almost impossible usage of the Force that was unbelievable even for Star Wars. On that note as well, why not let Kylo Ren kill Luke? Skywalker said it himself in the movie. If Kylo had killed Luke, Luke would forever be on his conscience and always causing internal conflict, just like Han. But instead, we were delivered a sack of shit from the writing staff that ended up with Luke, the great Luke Skywalker, vanishing into thin air and becoming one with the Force. Cinematically, the movie was gorgeous. Notable standout scenes being the warp speed suicide bomb of Snoke's ship, the throne room battle of the beautiful red backdrop, and also the stark contrast of the salt on Crate being torn up to reveal the red earth underneath it. It almost looked like the battle was bleeding itself from afar. It was beautiful. It seemed very wasteful to use up an entire movie on what really was a 24-hour period. The Empire itself seems much smaller and contained now, not this dauntingly massive machine from Vader's day. The battle that you can barely call a battle on Crate was such a cheap ripoff of Hoth, it's asinine that the writers got away with it. Bring back violence to film. Lightsabers are freaking powerful. I want to see somebody's limbs get chopped off. I want to see somebody die, not just collapse from an unseen internal injury. There's a whole mess of random, half-heartedly developed characters that serve no purpose other than to clutter up the film. And they distract from developing on the more important characters that we want to see more from. These being the pink-haired Vice Admiral, DJ the Cracker. We saw maybe 5 minutes of screen time from these, and they all distracted from characters that we actually care about. Now I know a lot of the plot holes that I poked out are me being a continuity snob and meaningless to the casual fan. But in all, Star Wars The Last Jedi seemed like a cold-hearted slap in the face. To myself especially, I see this as the beginning to end for a space series that we know and love. And the worst part is, I understand why things are going the direction that they are, and I know that they're not going to change. Disney is going to milk Star Wars harder than Luke milked the mysterious slug beast on Ahch-To. Although I am very sad to see the Star Wars franchise turn over a new, modern leaf, I'm also extremely happy for a whole new generation and fan base to adopt the galaxy far, far away that I know and love. Was such a cheap ripoff of Hoth that the writers should be executed. Oh, no, okay, that's a little bit too much.